I think because I'm at a certain age now, and Steve Jobs was so right when he said, you get to a certain age where you look back and you start to join the dots. But when you're on that journey, it's confusing, it's perplexing. It's like, what am I doing? Where am I going? And it's like, and I will always tell anybody younger now, follow your heart. If your heart is saying go this way, follow it, do it. Later, you'll find out why.
Welcome to SELINTalks, brought to you by SELINTalks, where we ignite conversations with the most innovative minds in education. Today, we're jazzed to have phenomenal Rachel Palling join us. Rachel is not just a master of languages, but also a trailblazer in education coaching, blending the neuroscience with language learning to create a groundbreaking neuro-language coaching. Her passion for education and her journey of continuous learning have touched lives worldwide, transforming traditional teaching methods. I'm absolutely thrilled and humbled to share this space with her today. So buckle up as we dive into a conversation that is sure to spark curiosity and inspire transformative thinking in education. So thank you so much for being here. I am so glad we're going to have this conversation. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. Thank you. I'm very excited. Life is very exciting at the moment.
Awesome. So to begin with, we have something that we call as icebreaker question. You have been, so as a polyglot and someone fascinated with languages, if you could instantly become fluent in any language you aren't already, which would it be and why?
Well, my instant answer would be Arabic.
Why?
Do you know, I'm quite fascinated with the language. I'm fascinated with the sounds. I love the letters. I'm just, yes, I've dabbled a little bit with it, and it's kind of hard. And when you start with letters and language, you're using both hemispheres, so it's a lot of hard work. So yes, if I could instantly speak Arabic, brilliant.
Amazing. That's actually something that I need to ponder upon. Even I will think about this. What language? Yeah. Okay. Rachel, with such a rich experience and varied career path, what do you believe were the pivotal experiences or decisions that had led you to where you are today in the field of neuro language coaching and your education innovation, all of it?
I guess it was at the age of 17 moving to Spain and then starting to teach. That was the starting point of everything in my life. And I never had that focus of being a teacher, and I never thought I would be a teacher, and I never thought I would do what I do. And through life, it's been that sort of accumulation of moments, of pivotal experiences that have kind of brought in this holistic oneness of everything that I've done to create then and move into this period of my life that I'm doing what I'm doing. Yes.
17 years, that's quite young.
I was very young.
Yeah.
Very young. I thought I was an adult at that age.
That's also, yeah. That's also a way to approach life. I mean, people are doing what they're doing in the early age as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So yes, I mean, that was really key for me, moving to Spain, living in Spain, immersing myself in the culture here, teaching English, coming into that language of, Spanish and English and Catalan, and really understanding languages and then starting that journey. Yes, I then went on to do other things, but teaching has always been ever present in my life.
That's beautiful, actually. You have transitioned from law to education. That's also very interesting. Combining your legal expertise with language teaching, what was the pivotal moment that sparkled this significant shift in your career path?
When I was living in Spain, it was actually my brother-in-law who kept saying to me, Rachel, go back to university, Rachel, go to university, Rachel, go back to school, Rachel, go back to school. So at the age of 24, I then went to university, and then I chose law because I really, I guess each and every one of us, we have this passion to somehow want to create a better environment, a better space. And for me, it was that feeling of justice, but for me, it was always human rights.
Mm-hmm.
So I never wanted to become a commercial lawyer. I had to go down that path to get the qualification. But my whole intention, and I remember the law professor, the head of law at the University of Sheffield, when I said I wanted to do human rights, and I did a stage in Geneva, I was at the United Nations and all of that. And he literally said to me, Rachel, you know, it's the hardest path in law.
Yeah.
And I said, I know, just, I want to be on it. And I did a master's in human rights after the BA. And that was when I really saw that only the ones that had the qualification had I'm going to say the status to do things. So for me, it was about getting that qualification, getting through it. And afterwards, that's when I combined legal English with everything else I'd done in the past. And I left the law firm to then become a legal English consultant, coming back into teaching. I moved to Germany to do that, to really be a legal English coach. And I was at the University of Verona for 7 years with that topic of legal English.
That's brilliant.
So it fell together, it came together, you know, the dots started joining.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm fascinated too. When I was reading about you, it was a lot of, I was very curious, a little bit of similarities here and there with the law, starting early and everything. But I was really intrigued as to how did you do this? And when I'm hearing, it's quite fascinating.
And fascinating for me, you know, because, you know, as you go through life, I think because I'm at a certain age now, and Steve Jobs was so right when he said, you get to a certain age where you look back and you start to join the dots. But when you're on that journey, it's confusing, it's perplexing. It's like, what am I doing? Where am I going? And it's like, you know, and I will always tell anybody younger now, follow your heart. If your heart is saying go this way, follow it, do it. Later you'll find out why.
I'm going to make this a highlight actually. It's brilliant because even when I was growing up, everybody was moving towards doing engineering. It's a very typical thing. Either you become a doctor or an engineer, and I was all set to become an engineer. And then in 11th grade, I changed my subjects from science. I moved to arts. That was English and political science and economics and all of those things. And everybody asked me the same question: why? Why would you move from science to this? Because arts subjects were looked down upon at that time because it was a thing. And then I moved on to do law myself. So back then I was really confused. Like you said, I was very confused as to why am I doing what am I doing. But then now at this point I understand, and I can kind of, not entirely, but I do connect the dots as to why. But yeah, you rightly said we need to follow, and we can probably do the whys later, and we'll get to know whys later.
And may I add what I'm observing there, and this is again something that maybe in the world we can work on as a collective, removing judgments.
Yeah.
And allowing people to find their own path and honoring everybody's choices.
True.
So no more whys to anybody.
Actually that's the takeaway.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. All right. So you created neuro-language coaching. Can you walk us through the moment or experience that led you to create neuro-language coaching? What gap did you see in the traditional language learning that your method addresses?
Not sure if I saw a gap. When I moved to Germany in 2003, I'd already been there in 2000 when I started this journey of language coaching. We're talking about 25 years ago where I started as a language coach, perplexed because I was thinking, well, what on earth is this? And how on earth do I do this? And how do I make a difference between teaching and coaching? And in all those early years that I was working for a school and then my own business as a language coach, I was developing this concept by developing myself as a life coach. And I came into life coaching with brain-based coaching and following the work of David Rock, and when the neuroscience was starting to come into coaching, and that got me fascinated with both topics. So I started going into deeper research on the neuroscience, deeper research in the coaching. And I think there was a pivotal moment 2009 when actually a human resource manager, might have been 2011 actually, a human resource manager was a little bit nasty. And that nastiness of sort of saying, okay, well, what is language coaching and what are you doing? And you're no different to any other teacher, made me realize, well, actually, you know, he's right. You know, what is language coaching? What is it that we're doing? How do we crystallize this into a real concept? And that's where it started. And that got me then sitting down and creating the course for teachers, the concept itself, but something that also combines the neuroscientific principles, the emotional intelligence, everything in together with the coaching, but interwoven into language. And it's not just about now I'm a teacher, now I'm a coach. No, this is about really becoming, embodying, but also with the language expertise behind it of how do you interweave that language teaching into a brain-friendly, systematic, organized process of learning.
That must have been a lot of work.
Do you know, well, it's been 12 years of a lot of work.
Beautiful.
You know when you love your work and it doesn't feel like work. So I don't feel it like that.
Yeah. But during all of this, did you ever feel as to why am I doing, like, was there maybe a blip of self-doubt?
Oh, there's always self-doubt. There's always imposter syndrome. There's always, you know, the collective. And especially as a woman, you know, I've had so many attacks from men. Sorry, gentlemen, but I have to say the truth. Yeah, and it's really that, okay, you know, as a female entrepreneur and a female creator, sometimes we don't get the support.
I'm seconding that, yeah.
And, you know, so there's always the doubts, should I go on? Should I do this? And even attacks from other ladies, by the way. So, but, you know, when you're passionate about something, when you really have that vision, and right from the beginning, one driving factor for me was within the neuroscientific part, within that part about the brain, for me, the passion was to help people to reconnect with themselves, because, you know, at the end of the day, each and every one of us, the only battle in life that we have is with ourselves.
True. Very true.
No other battle exists. And if we can learn to operate and fully function, maximizing, optimizing our capacity in our brain, our mind, that was for me, the driving factor of how do we help people regain and empower themselves again.
It must be what it keeps you going also, right?
Absolutely. And you know, now, Shruti, now we can see the reason. Now we see the reason with all the AI that's coming out. Now we understand this is so important nowadays.
Yes.
We have
Irrespective.
to with ourselves, we have to reconnect with our brains, we have to retake back our humanness, and we have to enhance it, increase it, empower it.
Yeah. Very rightly said. The humanness that has gone missing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Very true.
Absolutely. And you know, the way that we communicate, the coaching is the key. Coaching conversations, or maybe you could even look at nonviolent communication. Anything that's helping and enhancing the way that we communicate is the first step in everything that we do.
True. That is so true. I mean, that's a fact. Leave it as if it's true or false, but that's a fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. You have also trained over 1,000 language teachers, huge number, by the way, to become neuro-language coaches. What are some of your most common transformation you see in teachers after they go through your training?
By the way, I do have some teacher trainers who I also have to say thank you, because they've, over the years, have also been a part of that. We're now up to 1,600 teachers. You know, it really is, it's a very, very deep transformation. It's a very deep transformation. And I guess it's a whole new way of communicating, even of living, of imparting knowledge, of transferring knowledge. And what they are seeing, all of those coaches are seeing the impact that they are having on their learners. You know, during the pandemic, so many of our coaches were actually helping people across the world to come through that on a psychological basis, because of the way that we understand how the brain works, and the fear factor and the survival instinct, and also that distraction of, yes, learn something new, get your brain engaged, do something different. So I do think it's I think it's the impact that they are having on other people. And that's the most beautiful thing, because they are getting direct feedback from others about what they're doing.
Yeah, brilliant. Did you, I mean, I'm sure you must have spoken to a lot of parents as well while you were, you know, doing this. You are still doing this. Do you face some kind of a, I won't say backlash, but a little bit of resistance when it comes to, you know, the neurological part of it or the psychological part of it?
I think a lot of people don't understand it. And a lot of people get it confused with NLP, by the way. It's really nothing to do with NLP. We don't go into that at all. I've never done NLP. I couldn't even start to train it or teach it. There might be some parallels, because at the end of the day, we're working with psychology, with neuroscience, with neuroeducation. So there are some parallels. But, you know, I think it's the skepticism of not knowing, and the skepticism of, you know, well, what are they doing that's different?
Right.
You make me smile, because I go back to that, I'm going to call him the man that was a little bit nasty, that the one who kind of got me to crystallize the concept. I can always remember his sort of, you know, looking at me and saying, well, what is it that you're doing with your clients? What is it that's so different? And that's the key point. You know, we are doing it differently, but sometimes it's very subtle changes in silence, or really active listening, or open questions and allowing people the time and space to think for themselves, or not jumping in and giving our opinions, not finishing off sentences. And when you add those little things together, the impact is huge.
Yeah. I mean, these are very small things that people randomly talk about, but huge impact for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, from the neuroscience part, what we do is we really inform the learners. This is the reason that we do this. This is the reason that we do this. This is what's happening in the brain at the moment. This is how the brain likes to learn. So we open up these conversations with our learners. You know, the brain is constantly trying to look for the reason for things.
Yeah, I was about to ask that.
And even reasons, what's the reason we do this in the language? Helping them to understand. Helping parents as well to understand.
Very true. I remember reading, like it was school psychology book, and it was mentioned that there are 7 kinds of intelligence in a human being. So one of that was linguistic intelligence, and something that I have been very fascinated with languages. I've lived in different parts of my own country and other countries, and I've tried to kind of grasp it. Number one reason is culture, because it gives me that, you know, the sense of belongingness. But usually people actually don't know that this is the kind of intelligence. We're kind of putting people in, be it teachers, be it parents, be it students, we're putting them in a box of idealized intelligence. What do you say on that?
I think you're actually talking about Howard Gardner, multiple intelligences.
Yeah.
And I believe there are 9. You know, he increased it to 9. You know, it's the way that we perceive and interpret information. And in some ways, the way that we do that is different. So the learning process might be the same, but the actual perception or the way that we learn it might be that we're all slightly different. And definitely, I always think it's about, and we're going to go back to Socrates, know thyself. Know thyself is the greatest 2 words on earth, because when we start to understand how do I receive information? How do I perceive? How do I process? How do I learn? What is my tendency in all of this? And yes, you know, I'm very verbal, linguistic. You show me a picture and I probably won't even see it because I'm not
Yeah.
a visual picture person. If you show me a page, and that, you know, that really is about this also spatial perception. I was reading actually last night that, you know, one of the things about reading on paper is in fact that our brain perceives that spatial location on the page.
Wow.
And that actually helps us in learning. And I know that I've got that pretty developed. And I always used to remember I had a photographic memory of a page. This is the paragraph at the top. This is the paragraph in the middle. I remember doing an exam when I was doing law, literally the exam, I think I just copied the page out from my brain.
Brilliant.
Yes. Yeah. So, you know, it's about knowing ourselves. At the same time, I know that I'm very kinesthetic. And I know that I'm sort of that sort of person who likes movement, and the more movement for me, the more creativity comes in. So I think it's the stimulus that really gets us into that learning mode.
I keep wondering that there are so many questions around how we perceive information, how this, how that, why is actually a lot of whys in the question. But while I'm talking to you, I'm able to relate a lot of things, that the questions that were not answered, or how our brain perceives. I mean, there are information, but when you hear somebody of your expertise, somebody who's been doing this for a while now, it puts things into perspective.
And for me, it's always, again, we come back to that coaching conversation. It's about sitting with that person and really discovering, and if they don't know, uncovering or discovering by trying and doing different things. And, you know, on the one side, from the science of learning, we know that more sensory input, the more impact. But then there might be some things that you prefer doing, and your brain, you know, you get the right chemistry for learning. And every journey is different. Every learner is different. Every brain is different. And this is, for me, this is the era where no more the learner adapts to the teacher. It's the teacher adapting to the learners. And that's why we have to learn how to do this. We don't know how to do it. We're learning to be flexible. And my favorite word at the moment is chameleonic.
Oh, wow. This is interesting.
That's the teacher of today. We have to adapt and change color to the color in front of us.
Yeah, I love that word, by the way. Very nice to put.
My favorite word at the moment.
Yeah. Okay, you talked about professional coaching, and in terms of professional coaching in education, what do you believe are critical elements that make coaching effective and educational for educational professionals, especially?
Again, I'm going to go back to this point that it is about the teacher transforming and becoming that persona of the coach. But when I mean the coach, I don't mean the sports coach. I really mean the soundboard, the facilitator, the catalyst, the one who is stimulating and provoking brain connections. I also like to say the provocateur par excellence. And that sort of figure who is solid with their expertise, not taking on the burdens of the learner, and understanding how to bring that autonomy back to the learner, but how to be there as their stabilizer, you know, the wheels on the bicycle that stabilize the child, or the support in the background. If you need me, I'm here. But you, learner, you go and discover, you go and learn, and I'm here to help you learn. And doing that in a very calm, safe environment. And that is primordial. Learning has to take place in a safe environment.
Do you think it has gone somewhere, like this ideology is not like there anymore?
Can you repeat the question for me?
Like you said, that we need safe environment to learn, actually learn, and everybody, be it teachers, be it students, all of us, we need safe environment. Do you think that this entire conversation of having safe environment is no more there, or we have kind of neglected this entire part?
Maybe I can put this in a different way. Sometimes as teachers, we feel that we're helping and we're supporting, but actually we're doing the opposite. May I give you an example?
Please.
A lot of the time, and especially language teachers, and I used to do it, by the way, when we see somebody struggling, we jump in to help them.
Yeah.
Now, actually, that is giving maybe a very deep message of, oh dear, you can't do it. I need to do it for you. You're not good enough. Or the message, you're not fast enough. I need to jump in. And that is what maybe is happening in the learner's psyche. You know, the learner might be feeling this without expressing it, or subconsciously feeling that impact of somebody interrupting, jumping in, doing it for them, instead of the teacher just going into silence and even giving the message, I'm here if you need me. Let's see what comes out. And if you need me, give me a sign and I'll jump in. So many, many times the habits that we have, or the way that we teach, might actually be having a very deep impact on the learner, which is not the impact that we want. And it's making them nervous, or it's making them feel unsafe, or they feel they can't speak. And that's counterproductive to what we want to happen.
Unknowingly. Yeah.
Unknowingly. And you're right, you know, we don't realize it. And one of the major points is that many teachers across the world, we're all following the style of teaching of the last 200, 300 years. We're changing it. Yes, we're changing it. But it requires a lot of awareness, consciousness, and really coming into the moment of knowing that we need to change habits. We need to change the way we communicate, the way we talk, the way we deliver, the way we give knowledge.
True.
And that's why coaching is such a powerful tool, because it really brings in that knowledge and that consciousness into the conversation that we're having in the classroom.
It's changing perspective altogether.
It is. And it was interesting because somebody was talking to me a few weeks ago about transactional analysis and this, you know, this expectation of relationships. And we expect this relationship of teacher-learner, and this is how the teacher is, and this is how the learner is. And we're moving away from that. So so many people are saying, we're not doing the sage on the stage anymore. But the problem is that they still are. They're just saying it. It's lip service. They don't realize that their whole manner, their whole demeanor, their whole behavior is still ingrained in that persona of that teacher that has been the teacher for the last 200, 300 years. And it's that bringing in the consciousness of that change. And that's where teachers transform. And it really is a deep transformation. And it's about teachers letting go of so much.
A lot of unlearning, yeah.
Yeah. And I even mean letting go of that burden and responsibility of I should know everything, I need to know everything, I need to know all the answers. Actually, no. We need to facilitate that they find their answers, their way, their solutions, their vision.
Very beautifully put, honestly.
This is the truth of what's coming out at the moment, you know, and it's an interesting world. Shruti, it's a beautiful world at the moment because we're right on the cusp of that change.
Yeah.
We really are.
I'm mesmerized actually while I was listening, everything that you were just talking, quite mesmerized.
Let's see how we can bring in the changes. And, you know, I know that teachers are doing it intuitively as well.
They do. They are trying, yes.
Intuitively, they're changing, but they need help. They need the help to understand what are they doing? How are they doing it? How can they do more? How can they enhance? How can they stop this? How can they enforce that? This is where they need just that support to really understand what they're doing. Many teachers that come onto my courses, they come on and they're doing a lot of it already. And the reason is we have to because the learners have changed, their brains have changed, and we're trying to adapt. As we said, we're trying to do it, but then it's how to help them to fully do it. That's the key.
That is very true. Last but not the least, there are a lot of people who are coming up. There are a lot of budding educators who are there. What advice would you give to these educators just starting out in their careers, especially those interested in incorporating innovative methods and neuroscience into their teaching?
I would say the theory of everything is brilliant, but it's not just about regurgitating the theory. It's about living it. It's about being it. It's about embodying it. And that would be what they should be asking themselves. How do I embody this theory? How do I deliver it? How do I bring it alive? That would be my advice.
Brilliant. I'm trying to kind of sit with everything that we talked about. Not trying, actually, I'm sitting with it. And there's just a lot that needs to be explored out there. There's a lot of conversation people need to have, especially teachers. And the coaching method it is not, I won't say it's new, but the adaptation of it and a lot around it when it comes to teaching. And like you said, people are teaching from 200, 300 years old methods. And the movement, it's a movement altogether. Coaching styles and coaching effectively in educational professionals is actually a movement. And I'm all up for it. And I'm glad that we had this conversation. I'm glad that you are part of Selling Club and all of that you're doing. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you. And you're right. And coaching and education has been around for 25 years. It's nothing new. It's the way that now it's not about teachers receiving coaching and receiving that it's about the teachers being the coach. And that's the difference. That's the transformation. It's about the living, being, embodying coach in the classroom with the kids, with the adults, with the learners. Yeah.
This message needs to go out. Like I say that, there are certain things that we know, we have read, we have learned, and then there are things that you really kind of sit with it. Like you said, you need to sit with certain things. That's what these things are. And thank you so much once again. Thank you so much for being here, for having this conversation with me, because I'm really fascinated with, like I said, while I was reading, it was reading, but when you get to speak to a person who's been doing this for a long while, and who's living this, it's another shift. Every time I have these kind of conversations, my entire perspective shifts, and I love that for me.
That's fantastic. And honestly, Shruti, we're coming into now, my life is going to change dramatically over the next months, years. I'm very excited how it's going. I'm going to leave it as a curiosity point for your listeners that they follow and watch this space, because we're just going to go into just a fascinating next phase.
I'm excited too now.
Good.
I'll keep watching your space. I'll have a look at it. If you keep telling us what you're working on, I'll love to hear about it.
I will.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks for tuning into another episode of SELINTalks. A huge shout out to Rachel for joining us today and igniting such an enlightening conversation. These discussions are heartbeat of Selling Club, and it's a joy to share these gems with all of you. So keep that spark of curiosity alive, let your mind soar, shine brighter every day. Catch you on the next episode. Stay curious.